Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for coming along. My name is Mark Browning. I'm the Managing Director of ITN Productions, and the session is titled, Who Wants to be a Digital Millionaire? To which the answer is, all of us. End of session. Not end of session. ITN Productions is ITN's commercial production company, making television and digital and branded content and channel management and so forth. So the purpose of the session, I think, today is not just to talk about the billions and billions and billions of views and downloads that we all get, but how we actually turn that into something financially viable and make meaningful margin and profit off it. We have an esteemed panel. Dominic Burns to my immediate left, Senior Vice President of Brand Management and Commercial at NBC Universal. For those that are less familiar, their company includes other companies like Carnival Films that produce Downton and Monkey Kingdom that make Made in Chelsea, so we'll explore those areas. Claire Hayes to my next left, Director of Brand Partnerships at ITV, running the side of ITV that commercialise the IP from their big formats. So we'll hear lots about the ITV brand extensions and the digital commercialisation of those. Daniel Hewitt from Maker Studios. We're probably all familiar that Maker was bought by Disney not so long ago. Daniel heads up their UK business. And right on the end, Lawrence Jones, Endemol Shine UK. Lawrence is their commercial director. And again, overseeing all the activities from the channel flip multi-channel networks, the mobile apps, and the brand extensions and commercialization of their IP as well. So the format will run, everybody will do a short presentation highlighting 3 or 4 key areas of their business. And then we will explore and discuss. So have questions, have a notepad and pen, make notes, and we'll jump in and out as we go through the session. I'll ask some supplementary questions and then take it to the floor after that. So if we may start. Dom, you're up first.
Cool. Good afternoon, everybody. Who wants to be a digital millionaire? So I think during the time that I've worked in the TV business, there have been several digital gold rushes. The first that I can remember that was serious was about 10 years ago, when program websites were going to solve all of the ills of the TV industry. A few years later, they were replaced by apps, which were the new panacea for all things, and were going to replace declining spot advertising revenues in the future. And now there isn't a content company in the world that isn't either investigating or investing very seriously in short-form content, bespoke short-form content on these new platforms that we can deliver content on without broadcasters. But I think the brutal reality of today is that there isn't a get-rich-quick scheme in digital. In fact, the vast majority of programs, TV programs that are made, probably have a limited digital life, limited only to catch-up and to the very important and considerable benefits of social media marketing. But for me, and I work, perhaps my USP on this panel is that I work for a production company that uniquely and only exclusively makes TV programs. We have to think about how we can use digital to enhance our brands, enhance the engagement of viewers around our TV shows, and hopefully, ideally, monetize that digital interaction as well. And we're fortunate enough that whilst I mentioned that the vast majority of shows maybe don't lend themselves to digital interactivity, we have one show in our portfolio that really lends itself incredibly well, and that is Made in Chelsea. For the uninitiated out there, or for those who are not going to publicly admit to watching Made in Chelsea, it is a structured reality show on E4, now going into its 12th series. On air at the moment, and we have a series over the 4 years of the show's life. We've built up an ecology of sort of different engagement or touch points for digital, some of which are very traditional, such as catch-up and social media, but some are much more non-traditional, such as the short-form content that we're making with advertisers, the mobile game that we've developed with Channel 4, and the Spotify playlist. And I'll just touch on that very briefly because I'm not going to touch on it in the rest of the presentation. Music is an incredibly important part of this show. And the Spotify playlist, it's the most Shazammed television program around in the UK. And the Spotify playlist that's dedicated to Made in Chelsea performs better than any other Spotify playlist dedicated to any TV content. But where do we start in terms of trying to work out whether a TV show has digital extensions that can be valuable to us in the future, and whether digital is a really important area that we or the broadcaster should invest in? Well, the first big signs for us came in catch-up. And for a show that's broadcast on E4, it's amazing that Made in Chelsea has now become the second most watched show on the whole of Channel 4's portfolio on catch-up. The digital purists out there, or the research purists out there, won't like me adding together TV viewing and digital viewing, but if you do that very simplistic calculation, you will work out that more than 30% of our viewing for Made in Chelsea for one episode comes from catch-up. That equates to 500,000 streams per episode, and that equates last year to 25 million streams across the whole series, or across the whole year. So that's really important for a number of reasons. Firstly, it tells us and it tells the broadcaster that this is an important show on digital, and that there's digital engagement and digital desire from the viewers. And that's really important for us in getting long-term loyalty from the channel for this particular show. Made in Chelsea is such a strategic block of the All 4 platform now that Channel 4, we hope, will be committed to the show in the long term, and that seems to be the case. But secondly, in terms of going back, to the catch-up, the other thing it's shown us is the way in which the fans, and we know that we've got an audience that's made up of more than 50% 16 to 34s, so the likelihood is that they would want to engage on digital. We know that they want to watch stuff on digital. And I have to say, this is where Channel 4 have really stepped up to the plate. Given that there are no scenes in this TV show, we can't film behind the scenes, and behind the scenes material is normally the usual material that you fill a website with. And we've made a slew of different programs for digital exclusively for Made in Chelsea. I'm referring to my notes just because there are so many. We've had a studio-based format called Mad on Chelsea, an interactive format called Live in Chelsea, a live music format called Played in Chelsea. Can you see the theme in the titles here? We've even been able to engage with another department within Channel 4, Channel 4 Education, who have commissioned 2 separate digital series, one called 7 Deadly Sins and one called Normal for Chelsea. And less educationally, for this series, we have In Bed with Jamie, which is doing incredibly good business on the 4 Shorts platform. Of course, moving on from content that the broadcaster has commissioned, we've started to include digital content in our relationship with advertisers. It's a tricky area to get right, because when you're based on a TV program, the needs of the program are paramount. We can't just create advertorial that features the cast. We have to create content that the consumers, the audience, will understand as Made in Chelsea first and foremost. But of course, we also need to satisfy the needs of the advertisers who are funding that content. Unfortunately, in the case of Sony Mobile and Rimmel, we found 2 advertisers who have been incredibly realistic about what could be delivered around a brand like this. And this content, which has been developed since the beginning of 2014, has really helped to cement longer-term relationships with these 2 sponsors who invest in the show in a huge variety of different areas. Social media, as you would expect for a show of this type, is incredibly important. We work with the cast increasingly. They have over 6 million followers between them. We work with the cast to support our digital content, and also, where appropriate, to support digital content that's produced by our commercial brands as well. Typically, we're the #1 trending topic on Twitter when the show is on air, which is extraordinary for a show that's just E4. I'm getting the hurry up. And to be in the top 5 of all TV programs for a digital program with the size of the TV audience we have on Twitter is an extraordinary achievement and testament to the way in which the fans want to engage with this show digitally. And finally, and perhaps most unusually out of all the digital extensions that we have, again, kudos to Channel 4 for investing and underwriting a mobile game, which has become the #2 mobile game in the free apps section of the chart of the iTunes store. We've delivered over 400,000 downloads. It's a freemium app, free to download, and then in-app purchases later. Its performance in terms of marketing for the series and in terms of revenue generation, not only do we have freemium in-app purchases, but also sponsorship, has been way in excess of what we or Channel 4 expected. and delivered some very nice revenue streams for both parties. So much so, in fact, that having done 2 versions of the same game, the second being an enhanced version, we're about to launch or to go into production on a completely new game that will be available globally, not just in the UK. So, without further ado, so that you can hear somebody else talk, we'll go to a VT, please.
Lovely. I'm just going to jump in while that's fresh in our mind rather than run through all, and there's 2 or 3 questions around there. Just can you clarify for everybody the commercial models that underpin each of those from the revenue that drives into your company? How much of that is just simply commissioned and how much of it is other types?
So the broadcaster commissioned content is broadcaster commissioned. Any revenue generation around that from advertising stays with the broadcaster, but we are commissioned to make that programming. And as I say, I think that the benefit to us, not just in any margin we make on that digital content, which isn't, of course, at the same level as television, is still in cementing the relationship that we have with the broadcaster. So the fact that we have a broadcaster so willing to commission so much digital content at, I would say, a higher level of cost than most digital content out there is being produced around programming is a real bonus for us. In terms of the work we do with advertisers and brands, we do that with Channel 4 and we share the revenues. In terms of the mobile game, again, the interesting thing there is that Channel 4 commission that and underwrite it, but again, we share in the revenues. So
you mean the ongoing revenues? Or the revenues of the individual commission, the ongoing revenues?
From the mobile game, yes.
Yeah.
And that's an unusual one. There are very few broadcasters out there who want to commission mobile games, but given the nature of this audience and the way in which they want to engage in digital...
So your costs are covered by them in the initial instance as they commission it, and then you share ongoing?
Correct.
And you mentioned that the revenues aren't as high in some of these things as they are in the TV world, clearly, but are the margins better?
The margins might be slightly better. I hope there's nobody from Channel 4 in the room at the moment. The margins might be slightly better, but the total volume of revenue, of course, is much smaller because the cost of producing for digital is much lower. But hopefully, as you got a bit of a glimpse from some of that digital content, as I said, it's not traditional behind-the-scenes content. It's quite high production values in most instances. And actually, Chelsea is a show where we take a lot of care to produce and deliver a certain gloss to the, even if some of the individual characters don't necessarily represent that gloss, there is a gloss on the production and a quality to the production that is there, and we hope empirical, both from the TV content right through to the digital content.
Final question while we move on then. All those digital variations and all those spin-offs, at what point in the development journey did they arrive on the scene? Did you, as a producer of this, have ideas in this space, or did you go, we're going to create a TV format and then see what happens?
I think in terms of the digital content, we always had an inkling that this was a show that would lend itself to digital. So I think we were constantly knocking at the door of the broadcaster to say there are digital ideas that we should be trying to engage the audience with between shows and between series. And the great reaction that we got from Channel 4 was that they absolutely agreed and they stepped up to commission that content. In terms of the game, I have to say that was entirely inspired by Channel 4, the mobile game, and has worked incredibly well. And in terms then of the sponsored digital content, we're constantly, with Channel 4 and ourselves, talking to brands about what they can do around our TV shows, including Chelsea. And one of the key components of what we can offer brands is digital content and social support. So,
okay, we'll pause there, Don,
sure.
mate.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Claire from ITV, over to you.
So my role at ITV is I look after all the IP rights for ITV Studios, so all the big hits that ITV has through that label. But increasingly, I really work with any producer that has got one of their programs on ITV, where I can attach it to an advertiser and make us and that producer money. So I'll talk you through some of that. So we look at television IP as being what comes off of the back of the TV hit. So I think you have to have got that zeitgeist thing that is a TV hit in the first place. And then when we do brand licensing deals, we look at what are the assets that have been created. So it's obviously the logo, it can be the vocabulary from the show, photography, screen grabs, sets, talent. We basically just look at the show as a whole and work out what are the pieces we can pull out so that we can put together off-air brand campaigns for advertisers. So the crucial thing to note when I've got my 6 to 7 minutes to chat to you is that everything I'm talking about will be sitting on an advertiser's platform, not on ITV's platform, because we do off-air deals. So a licensing deal, because everybody really gets a bit scared by that word, but what is a licensing deal? It's really just the permission to use an asset of a TV programme. And to make that different, we just connect that to an advertiser, and we give the advertiser the permission to use the assets of one of our shows, or one of your shows, and we call that a brand partnership, and that fundamentally is what we do. So I'm going to talk you through some of them now. This is an ITV Studios show made by Shiver, so Paul O'Grady's For the Love of Dogs. We're very fortunate in being able to attract the most perfect brand partner in Pets at Home, a dog retailer, a pet retailer, and they very much wanted to just really get involved with this programme. So we turned Paul O'Grady into their brand ambassador in a big talent deal that we did alongside them. But crucially, they were a really socially savvy brand, and they wanted to create content. So we created 10 pieces of content, all connected in with the subject matters that they as a retailer do, but were very, very appropriate, very dog-focused, and so good with our show. And Paul, being such a brilliant brand ambassador for dogs, he really brought this alive. And here's one of the videos. Puppy video, I win. So we created pieces like that. Now, a few years ago, all the focus would have been trying to drive that into being an advertiser-funded program and for television. It's so much easier to work with that on digital. You saw the branding for Pets at Home there. You saw how authentic it came across because of Paul's involvement. And we created, as I said, 10 of those, and they were released socially. None of that was all digital content. This piece I'm going to show you here started on Facebook. So we created this massive campaign with Interflora around our big hit Surprise Surprise. Interflora were not the sponsors of the programme. That's the crucial thing to note here. They wanted to be, but they didn't win that sponsorship. They bid and they didn't get it. So they came back to us at ITV and said, we'd love to work with Surprise Surprise. So we created this campaign. It was all about nominate somebody special and Mark Wright will turn up and give them flowers. Simple concept. So they launched it on their platforms, on Facebook, did extremely well. We put a TV researcher into my commercial team who sifted through all those nominations as they came through. And we ran that process exactly like it was part of the TV show. The exec producer was the one who chose the stories. Then the stories were edited into a TV ad that went out inside Surprise Surprise, and then masses of content came off the back of it. Oh, sorry, play the VT, please. It was actually quite difficult to get a piece of video where she wasn't like this. She kept saying, I can't even look at you. So that was a wonderful campaign. So much. Interflora were an online business, essentially. There was lots of stuff we did in store, but the stuff that you want to hear about is what we did online. All the stories were there. Mark Wright sat with the people afterwards and talked about, they'd all been nominated because they did something beautiful in their lives, whether they were nurses or charity workers. So the stories were all great. But those are the two big campaigns I've done for ITV Studios. But I also work with other producers. Basically, I follow the money. If an advertiser comes to me saying, I want to get involved in one of these ITV shows, my job is to put a deal together. So Tuesday's Child made a programme for us called Back in the Room, first series. So it's unusual to do these deals around first series. But Just Eat with the advertiser, very digitally savvy advertiser, 100,000 likes on Facebook, really big on Twitter, very active when TV is on, because that's when people sit around and decide that they're going to have a takeaway meal. So we created this campaign. I go to Tuesday's Child, say, would you like to work with Just Eat? So I can put a campaign together for you. They gave Just Eat screen grabs from the programme. As you can see up there, Just Eat writes an appropriate comment on it, and it's released over the top of the programme. Really simple, really effective. The next one is Objective, obviously not one of ours, sorry, obviously not one of ITV Studios, made by Objective, but The Cube, one of our big shows. Cheerios was the sponsor. They wanted to do loads of stuff, so we gave them the graphic assets from The Cube, and they ran a big Facebook campaign around that. Next one is RDF Television and Jackpot Joy. Interesting thing here is how they worked with Ben Shepherd, the host of the programme. So they really got into sort of set assets that I mentioned earlier. We've done set visits, Q&As on set, and then Ben Shepherd did a Twitter Q&A off the back of one of the programmes. They're obviously a digital site. Everything happens for them online. So they huge use of those assets online. Finally, WizKids on air at the moment with Barbecue Champs. You know, ratings and rain notwithstanding, Magners have got involved in this show in a huge way. So they've done video content with Mark Blatchford, one of the presenters of the show. They've even created merchandising kits that they have pushed out to their suppliers. They use their link with this show to get stocking, to be stocked in Tesco's at a crucial time of year, because they want if you're having a barbecue, they want you all drinking cider. But really fantastic to be able to do that around a new show. That's me done.
Brilliant. Okay, a couple of questions on there. We all want to be digital millionaires, okay? That's why we're here. So we see these formats, and we see now, from all of that, more money going into ITV. Brilliant, but you're not short of a bob or two. So what is the independent production sectors? Where's the skin in the game for them? How do they benefit from that? They make a hit format, it flies, and then you rightly go off and exploit that commercially elsewhere.
So I'm very clear when I phone up Objective or WizKids or whoever that it's their IP that I'm wanting to work with. They're the owners of that. I'm the one who can attach a commercial deal to it. We discuss the money, we discuss how we're going to split it. All the approvals is done by the producer. Nothing happens on one of these deals that the producer doesn't want to happen, because they're the brand guardian, the same way I'm the brand guardian on ITV Studios. It's just because I sit inside ITV Network's sales department. So I sit on a floor that has 300 people stomping the pavement every day selling television. So I'm obviously going to be able to attach big commercial deals to these, and the benefit goes to the producer.
What's the value of a campaign like this?
I thought you might ask me that, and obviously I can't tell you, but I might tell people in the bar afterwards. But those deals that I've mentioned there range from 20 grand to 175.
Okay, that's a good answer, actually. Thank you. Okay, Daniel.
Hello. Right. I don't have slides. I'm going to show a reel shortly, but I'm just going to talk about Maker Studios, what the hell it's all about, why Disney acquired the business for hopefully $950 million. We live in a really remarkable time. Just this morning, Facebook announced, I don't know if you caught this, that 1 billion human beings have been on Facebook within a 24-hour period. Just let that sink in. It's unbelievable. The iPhone has got a 4K video camera in it. Anyone who is a producer, who hopefully will work in the creative industries, knows how much a 4K video camera would have cost to buy just a few years ago. The ability to be able to capture and share stories is without limit. We can connect to any content we want at any time. Platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat allow individuals with something to say to find an audience. Those audiences become fans. So from a television perspective, the group of people who were formerly known as the audience are now creators and contributors. They have the tools and the technology to share their stories, and they're doing it en masse. Maker was founded by a handful of those individuals who had aspirations to work in TV networks and for production companies, but were frustrated by the traditional routes to market. Should we say, being a runner and not being paid for 5 years? Fuck that. And they had something to say, and they were very creative, and YouTube was there, and the tools were available to them. The cost of editing software was plummeting, etc. So they created stories, and they posted them on YouTube, and they found an audience, and that audience in turn became fans, and they promoted that content to their peers and their friends, and the momentum grew. And it was the same time that Google opened up what they called the partner program, where they acknowledged that these individuals and rights holders and other content creators were we're generating value for YouTube as a platform, bringing audiences joy and entertainment and information like never before. And so today, as I'm sure many of you are aware, YouTube still shares the lion's portion of ad revenue with content creators and rights holders. So these individuals got a check and they were like, wow, that's pretty interesting. If we can find bigger audiences, maybe we don't need to worry about that being a runner for nothing for 4 years, and we can make this our thing. So a handful got together and started collaborating with other individuals because they wanted to share in other people's skills and expertise, and also maybe tap into their audiences and see if they could cross-pollinate. And so long story short, 5 became 50, became 100, and now we're a network of over 55,000 content creators and rights holders from all around the world. We're not hamstrung or limited by language or border. Those 55,000 individuals and content creators produce over 1,200 hours of original content every single day. That in turn generates over 11 billion video streams a month, and that's just on YouTube, but they're omnipresent on every other platform, and it's a new creative expression. Digital short form isn't tied to the rules of commissioners in terms of half hour or an hour. The story is as long as it needs to be good and to be entertaining. And it's typically born out of a frustration that the thing that they care about and the thing that they love just isn't represented elsewhere. And as I say, they have the tools so they can make things. And with that scale and with that size of audience, 650 million subscribers on YouTube, 11 billion video streams, brands and advertisers are extremely keen to connect with those individuals, and arguably in a really intimate and one-on-one relationship. So we own the advertising inventory around that content engagement. We work with brand partners to bring their messaging and product into that story and that narrative in a really authentic, credible, and rewarding way for the audience, for the content creator, and for the brand partner. We distribute content, we package it, and we work with broadcast partners and OTTs to license our content for our talent. We're focused on creating financial benefit and value for all these individuals. So I'll stop there, I'll show the reel, and I'm sure we'll have some questions about what we're up to. Thanks, Clay. The roles reversed, audience is now creator. You know, that's the power.
Is anyone else exhausted after watching that? Yeah? So, how much will people sit through that? An hour after hour after hour online?
Hour after hour after hour online. We're not creating more hours in the day. We're seeing a huge shift in habit and behavior. And it's a demographic shift. It's a generational shift. We're habitual creatures, humans. We form habits. Television was a habit that was formed.
Still a habit.
So the question,
for certain.
no one will dispute the billion views that happen every day on this stuff.
70% mobile as well, by the way.
But in terms of being predominantly a YouTube player, are you able to say categorically this thing is a genuine profit center and is a genuine profit driver? By the time you share the revenue with all the various parties along the chain, it feels like you can only, if you're saying you can only get scale at 55,000 channels, what hope is there for anyone? Unless you've got 300 of those to start with.
Well, several thousands of those channels, and not within Maker, outside, as public known, that is their living. Their business is running and operating a single YouTube channel. PewDiePie is a remarkable individual, 39 million subscribers on YouTube, over 400 million streams a month. He has a bigger combined audience in the UK than BBC Three and E4 combined for 10 minutes a day.
Again, no one disputes the audiences. The big challenge everybody has is turning that into a profitable margin.
I can't talk about exact numbers. There's a $950 million number that's public that you know, Disney agreed to acquire the Maker business for, and those of you who are good at multiples of revenue will know that there's definitely revenue in the business. We're working on over 600 concurrent branded content projects right now.
Just to explain, you mentioned something, I will move on. Did you mention something there about you control the advertising?
Correct, yeah.
How do you control that?
So we work very closely with our friends at Google and other distribution partners as well, because we have sales teams in a number of different countries, and we're expanding rapidly. We have first-party data around the audiences that are consuming content on those channels that Google doesn't have access to. It means that we can make the spot.
But is that unique to Maker, or can anyone do that?
Actually, anyone who owns a channel, if they have a sales team and if they're part of the partner program and they have an ad operations team and are familiar and capable of delivering advertising, they can sell their advertising on their channels.
So most people can't?
Correct.
Okay.
But if you join Maker, we're very happy to help optimize your channel and share that revenue with you. Yeah, so that's a really interesting and that's a very important point, because it means that we can curate these primetime content moments, predominantly mobile. I'll argue that primetime is now mobile for a certain demographic and audience. So we own those spots and those moments, and it's a one-on-one relationship between the brand and the audience. It's no longer an advertiser sitting in a slate of 6 other competing voices and brands. It's a unique, intimate environment.
What about the quality issue? And then we'll move on to Lawrence. Are you satisfied, are brands satisfied, that in that environment, the quality threshold matches the television environment?
Absolutely. Well, it's different. We're working with TV broadcasters. We're actually creating a number of TV shows for distribution on linear TV, but we see our creative expression as something new and something different. Short-form video is as different to TV as theatrical is to TV. And so the quality conversation there, I think, you'd have to ask the audience and the 400 million views that PewDiePie gets. People are connected to it. I don't think we can compare the two creatively. They're a different expression.
I might come back to that, Claire, afterwards, just in that space where the brands go. Lawrence, up next. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I thought I'd start with how's digital changing Endemol Shine. And what it means for us is we're doing lots of awesome new things. And one example, I'll show on a VT now, please, and I'll talk about it in a minute. So Dan and Phil, big YouTubers. I've got some stats here. I don't remember the stats as well as Dan, so I'll read them out. But Dan's got 5 million subscribers, 400 million views. Phil's got 2.9 million subscribers, 238 million views. Awesome stats means lots and lots of fans there. That app has been in the top 40 paid-for apps since its launch in both the UK and the US. Why do I mention that? Not because they're on one of our MCN channel Flip, but because they're also represented by our new digital talent management agency, Flipside, which is a really interesting initiative for a content creator ourselves to actually start getting involved in talent management. But when you declutter the sort of economics, the business of entertainment, you're left with 2 things really, which is the creative concept and the audience, the fans. And what the YouTube creators do brilliantly is they come up with the creative concepts and they deliver that to the fans and the audience. So we can, as management, help deliver to them value, help deliver to their fans value, and obviously help deliver to us some extra value as well. That's one interesting example about how that's changing Endemol Shine. In terms of what everyone else does on the panel, Endemol Shine are doing a bit of everything, and you'll find later on in the presentation we'll touch on what Fremantle are doing, what ITV do, and what Maker are doing. A scene setter, though, we're content creators. People should probably know a lot about this. Distribution is no longer monopolised by broadcasters, so it's not just a broadcaster marketplace, OTT, brand sites, video platforms, and social networks. That reduction control means we can create value directly to consumers. The key interesting one for me there, which I'll talk on later, is this includes our back catalogue. Brands and advertisers are now doing this directly themselves as well, moving from interruptive ads to storytelling, engaging, and targeted content. We're helping them do that as well. 4 quick case studies: monetizing existing TV content, creating new IP in digital, not forgetting telly, I think it's very important, and then it's all about great ideas. So this is about content claiming on YouTube. We began our project in 2013. We've uploaded and protected quite a number of our shows on YouTube. The views and revenues per month have increased by 400%, and it's a 7-figure revenue sum that we create annually for a digital archive project. And I got the best way of describing this, I think. was mentioned earlier to me, is it turns piracy into revenue for us. So it's a very important project for us, an ongoing project, and one we do for third parties as well. Creating new IP in digital. This is our very own smaller version of Maker, I think I'll say. Endemol Beyond is now one of the largest premium content networks on YouTube. We produce original and owned digital channels and formats. We work with all the major YouTube talent out there. We manage a network of digital talent, and we produce branded content solutions and influencer campaigns for brands. We've got production hubs in 9 territories with 6 more to follow. We call ourselves a premium content network rather than a multi-channel network because we've only got 786 channels with 90% original content on it. But where does that place us in sort of scale with everybody else? We're actually ranked by Social Blade 7th largest network in the world, and by Comscore 13th. June 2015, we had 1.8 billion network views per month, 77.5 million subscribers, and 473 million uploads. So that's a 650% growth since June 2014. As an example of one of our original channels, Legends of Gaming, we launched in October 2014. It's got 600,000 subscribers and 37 million views. We were hoping for between 12 and 15 million views when we went to market to get sponsorship for this annually. So we're doing very well. The format brings together the biggest YouTube gamers in the world and pits them against each other. We call it a unique gaming league format, but obviously lots of leagues out there. But sponsorship and brand integrations have been significant. We managed to secure Mattison's, the refrigerator sponsorship, before we even launched the channel, and PlayStation as a brand integration. We've got spin-off commercial opportunities which include a live event in 8 days' time. So if anybody wants to go, see me afterwards in the bar. We're going global. We've launched the channel format in Germany and the US, and with plans to do so in France, Spain, Russia, Southeast Asia, and the Netherlands. So it's taken advantage of our TV distribution network, our TV, the way we sort of engage, create value in all our IP around the world, we're doing with the stuff we're creating in digital as well. And going full circle, we're in discussions for TV extensions of this format as well. Which segues into, quite nicely, I think, don't forget telly. Using digital to innovate and enhance traditional TV content and get noticed by commissioners. An old example, but one I'll quickly just mention is £1 Million Drop was pitched as a game show. The channel wanted event television and better engagement with the audience. We came back with a live version, a play-along game for online and mobile. The interesting statistic now is going to come up. This was 5 years ago. It's not on air at the moment, but at the moment, we have 50,000 monthly active users still of our app. So we've managed to be able to create value in our IP that extends beyond the show being commissioned by a broadcaster. What happened last year?
Yeah, great, yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I pressed the right button as well. Show VT now, I'll talk about this one. I've been asked to move on quickly, so I will. Interestingly for me, this started out as a development by my digital team to launch a standalone commercial karaoke singing app, and I just couldn't get the business plan to work at all. The key issue being marketing costs were just too big to take a risk on it. We then spent some time chatting to our TV creative team, and then we came up with that app. As a consequence, they're the stats there. I'll move on quickly. Final one, I think it's all about great ideas. Simon's cat, he had a great idea about his cat, fat cat, mischievous cat, hungry cat, black and white cat, animated. If he'd have pitched it to a broadcaster, it would not have been commissioned. So he drew it himself and posted it himself on YouTube, exactly as Alan was saying people are doing. The result, second biggest animation channel on YouTube now. You can see the stats there, 650 million views, 2.3 million Facebook likes. Merchandise, huge.
Published, huge selling book now.
Yeah, 120 products launched, 150 million books sold. And it's been such a success story that we bought the company. So we bought the company quite recently with views to continue that story. One thing they've done this year is produced an 11-minute animated short in colour, not black and white, funded via crowdfunding. And let's see a VT of that. Exclusive VT for you guys. And as Simon did, have a good idea, get it out there, and make sure people get to find it. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Right, we've got 10 or 12 minutes. I just want to get a steer as to where to take the conversation. So How many people here are from production companies? Could you just raise a hand? Okay. How many would call yourselves sort of perhaps the talent end, or you run YouTube? You're a YouTuber? We won't go there. Oh, maybe one. How many think you're watching Come Dine with Jay Hunt? Or not quite sure. Okay. So we're definitely in the production space. Just on the Simon's cat illustration, how long did that have to exist for before a pound turned up?
Well, I think Simon drew his first animation in 2008, and I think very quickly that grew. So by 2011, there was a lot of merchandise out there. There was a lot of money coming in for Simon. So it took a couple of years before he was in a position where he was actually being able to pay for people to work with him.
Because I think that's one of the things. I do start getting your questions ready. If you have one, raise a hand and I'll see it, and we'll start the conversation. But on this is a key issue, isn't it, for all of us, is how much money do we invest and for how long in developing these digital spaces? How much would Endemol be spending on pure digital development?
In comparison to our TV development, not very much, I think. But we try not to separate it as well, though. I think for me, it's still about good ideas. Our development teams are creative people who come up with great ideas. And I think as the years go by and the people in there are more and more digitally native, those ideas themselves will just have digital at their heart. So our television creative team at the moment work hand in glove with my very small digital team. We have digital specialists that then deliver the technical bit of that, but in terms of the content creation, we try not to see it too separate.
What about on YouTube? How long would a channel need? We've seen the original commission strategy from YouTube. They ploughed millions of pounds into stuff, and most of it never made it through to the other end. How long does a production company have to give this stuff?
I mean, it depends on what their expectations are and what they're looking for. If you're an Endemol and you operate at, franchises with hundreds of millions of dollars in global revenue, then your expectation is wrong for this moment in time. If you're looking to develop and build IP that will move to other audience consumption points, television, then it's a wonderful development place. You can validate audiences, you can validate the creative execution, and so looking at it that way, and that's our business. We've got a world-class creative and production team, and that's what we're doing. We're developing IP, we're developing formats, local and global, and then we plug it into a distribution machine.
Tom, we'll come to you. Yeah, go on, jump in.
Make a point on that. I think the conundrum for most production businesses with the YouTube space, from our perspective anyway, is that it seems there are two ways to sort of really make money and be profitable. You can either be the individual YouTuber who builds a decent portfolio of subscribers and views, and then it can be quite profitable because your costs are low. Or you can be at the maker end of the business or the Endemol Shine end of the business where you've got massive, massive scale. The challenge for, I think, a lot of production businesses is you either have to invest the sorts of money that those companies have invested, but to get the real return. So it's that in-between position that I think a lot of production businesses wrestle with. How am I going to make this generate profit in the short to medium term without investing, huge multiple millions of dollars? So, I think the answer has been in the last couple of years that most big content organizations have invested those big millions. So has to be something in it. But I think that's the conundrum that most producers have to deal with.
Let's go. I've seen a few hands starting to go. There's one here. Do raise a hand if you have something, and I'll come to you next.
I'm going to do that awful thing and say I have two questions. But firstly, does this not leave you considerably more beholden to the talent than in other industries? So I know, rumoured, from what I've read of analyst reports, PewDiePie takes the bulk of PewDiePie's revenues and Makers benefits by having him on the books, is what I've read. And secondly, that's my next question, I guess. Disney bought Makers, it's a huge price, it's the highest price we've seen of those acquisitions. Do they buy it for talent reasons or do they buy it for revenue reasons?
Well, first of all, we're a talent-first business. Everything that we do is to support and is underpinned by celebrating and promoting creative individuals and groups of people. So that's the first point. From a Disney acquisition perspective, they were very public about it. They see Maker at the moment as a studio business and a new production and distribution business for creation of new IP and to promote and push kind of Disney products. So we have a claiming business very similar to Endemol Shine. We now manage all of Disney's digital IP. So 10,000 pieces of Star Wars IP are attempted to be uploaded to YouTube every day. We manage that for Disney now, so we make some of it available for promotional work and some of it for monetization. So there are a number of facets to how we plug into Disney.
I saw another hand, just, is it still there? Is it gone? Just on this, yes, there is, thank you, one there. Oh, sorry, one there. Okay, we'll go there and then we'll come to that one.
At the moment, a lot of the YouTube...
Could you just give us who you are and where you're from?
Sorry, I'm Tatjana. I'm from Strix Television, production company in Holland. At the moment, a lot of the YouTube content that we see is very much etched in youth culture, which is very smart because the young people are creating new habits. But what is your strategy in venturing into other target groups?
Who's this for? Maker?
Maker
or
and
YouTube?
Animal mostly, I think.
Okay, it's that end.
Well, at the moment, we're concentrating on trying to get our strategy in that youth market right. And, that platform is a very natural home for that age group. So we're looking at verticals in genre space rather than looking at different demographics. So we've launched channels that are male lifestyle, we've launched channels that are female lifestyle. My acquisition of Simon's Cat is going into that area. We have Mr. Bean in our portfolio, so we're looking at sort of younger kids, a sort of strategy space in that space as well. But yeah, at the moment, we just want to concentrate on getting this bit right.
I think from our perspective, YouTube's only 10 years old, so therefore just by its nature and the audience that it has is predominantly younger, and so that's where we focus. And we sort of go up to 34 years old, and then it becomes a little sparser for us, just because of the nature of the individuals who are using that platform to share their stories.
There's a question over here. Thank you. One second. Microphone's just behind you. Thank you.
Natural segue, which is, it seems like there are some topics and genres that work better than others. Do you think that's just a matter of time, and that we'll see medieval history becoming big in some of your areas, or do you think it's just naturally suited to the more kind of entertainment, lifestyle type areas?
Who's the question for? Or generally?
I work at the BBC.
Who'd like to answer?
I can do that from a TV point of view. If we have advertisers coming to us wanting to do these deals, that's where the demand lies. So if producers have created IP that an advertiser wants to attach to, they'll come in with the budgets, and then we put the campaigns together, and they hang it off a big media campaign that's been planned out there anyway. So the money is out there because the demand is out there in the advertising space, in the bit that I work in.
I think creatively, I think audiences are demanding more, and I think we'll start to see. I'm sure we're doing it. We're doing a lot more scripted, a lot more comedy, more entertainment, because I think that's what the quality that audiences are demanding is instant. And if they don't like what they see, then there's an unlimited amount of choice now. So the bar is being risen every single day.
There was a challenge with that genre. We'll be making money out of it, I think, because I'm not sure how big a viewership it would get.
There's more questions popping up. I know we're running tight on time. So there next. Can we keep going for a little bit? Yeah.
Hi, I'm James. I work for the BBC. I'm just wondering, a lot of the big YouTube stars that we saw on your VT, they've been around for quite a while. They've been at the top of their game for quite a few years. Are you seeing new stars able to cut through, or is the sheer size of some of these guys actually dwarfing the competition?
No, I mean, we globally, we receive about 5,000 requests a day for individuals wanting to join Maker Studios. There's wave after wave of individuals who will take the mantle on from one of these people. So the next PewDiePie in waiting, it isn't just one, there's 50 of them. We analyze our network, and we monitor trends and patterns and behaviors, and we see some channels go from 500,000 to 1.6 million subscribers in a matter of months.
And one of the reasons we're sort of resourcing up Flipside as a talent management agency is finding a way to try and identify who the new people are and get to them first.
Okay, this hand there.
Hi, excuse me.
Very brief if you can.
Very briefly, I'm Luke from Maker Studios. I couldn't resist downloading the Dan and Phil 7-second app while you were talking.
No, have you still me?
And the first question that's asked me, which I like to ask all the panel, is how many legs do 2.5 spiders have? We've got 5 seconds.
20.
15.
20.
Tell us.
Yes, this gentleman here, 20. It has 20. So,
Is that the question?
that was the question.
Thank you very much.
Very good question.
Last,
Best-in-class creative people on the planet. That's my boy.
okay,
You used the last minute of our session to ask that question, did you?
that was it. I'm gonna. I know.
Very good.
One more, just there.
Hi, Chris from Comic Relief. This isn't the question that applies to all of this because there's so many different business models going on here. But in terms of YouTube and YouTube revenues, the thing that we've seen over the last 12 months or so is an increase in native video on Facebook and Twitter and so forth, which is much harder to monetize. Is that a threat to that model?
All of those platforms are exploring ways to commercialize the video consumption they have and also how they then reward rights owners and original content creators. So we know that it's coming, and yeah.
Yeah, it's not a threat though. It's just I think it's a way of just there's sort of more opportunity for us, really.
More opportunity
for content creators and creators.
So I think one of the messages you've heard off this panel is create it, build IP in it, talent and creativity wins through, and money can follow.
Okay. We are over time. We will stop there. Enjoy your lunch. Please thank the panel, Dom, Claire, Daniel, and Lawrence. Thanks a lot.